how to make my homemade toffee apple loaf cake. The perfect autumnal treat. Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where today I'm making another autumnal favourite, which is my toffee apple loaf cake. It combines all things delicious, tasty and perfect. The apple bakes, which are definitely one of my most popular at this time of year, along with sweetness of toffee. It is perfection in a loaf cake. It's super easy but such a showstopper, and I thought I would bake it because I'm also craving a slice, and that's that simple sometimes. I bake something because I would like to eat it, so I might as well film it in the process. So either way, I'm going to show you how to make that today because it's, you know, there's flavours to it. We use dark brown sugar instead to get a little caramel flavour and all sorts. So yeah, today I'm going to make my toffee apple loaf cake. Just like any other sponge, I tend to start with my butter. So this is some cold baking spread, fresh out the fridge, because the way baking spread is made, you can use it from cold. But if you're going to use the block butter instead, make sure it's room temperature to make sure it beats in really, really well with the sugar. And then if you talk about sugar, we've got some dark brown soft sugar today. Usually I use light brown soft sugar, but I wanted to create an extra depth of flavour, so this is dark brown soft sugar, so there's more natural molasses in it. It's absolutely delicious with the apple, but of course if you don't have this, you can use light brown soft sugar instead. And just like any other cake, we have our self-raising flour, eggs, and a little bit of vanilla. These mix together to create a delicious cake batter, but then of course we have to add our apple. When it comes to the apple of this loaf cake, I tend to use cooking apples, or Bramley apples as they're often called in the UK, because these are in season. As you can see, this is a giant apple, so I only actually need one apple for this recipe. But either way, I tend to peel and chop as I'm making the cake mix, because otherwise the apple can start to turn a little bit brown, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's still completely edible and usable in the sponge, but I'll tend to mix this together, then peel and chop this up and fold it through. I would tend to avoid using eating apples, such as like a gala apple, pink lady, anything like that, because they tend to break down a lot more in the sponge and turn a little bit mushy. And the best part about this cake is you want to have the texture of the apple still in the sponge, so a cooking apple is the way to go. I'm just going to start as always by adding my butter to the bowl, and then I'm going to add in my dark brown soft sugar. And then we're going to mix these together until they're creamy and combined. Then I'm going to add a little bit of vanilla extract, then I'm going to add in my eggs, and then I'm going to add in my self-raising flour and mix to a thick cake mixture. This is just about mixed, so I'm going to turn it off now and then prep my apple. And then I'm just going to add in my chopped apple. Now that my cake mixture is ready, I'm going to pour it into my lined 2-pound loaf tin. As always, and I'll say it in every loaf tin recipe I do, this is the loaf tin that I use, so I'm going to link it in the description box, because a lot of loaf tins are not the size you think they are. So the general rule, if you're making this cake, is only fill your tin 2/3 full for the perfect cake. But either way, I've lined it, my oven is preheated to 160 fan, so I'm going to pour my cake mix in and then bake and leave to cool fully. Smooth it over slightly so it's evenly in the tin. Now it's in the tin, I'm just going to bake in the oven, and then I'm going to leave this to cool fully in the tin before decorating. Now that my cake has baked and cooled fully in the tin, we're going to decorate. So I'm going to make a toffee buttercream frosting. And this is a super simple recipe of some room temperature unsalted butter. I always use a block butter for this point. I never use a baking spread, because especially as you're adding the toffee sauce, if you use the baking spread, it's just going to turn to liquid, which nobody wants. So I'm using room temperature butter, and I'm going to beat this on its own until it's really smooth and supple. Then I'm going to add my icing sugar, my toffee sauce, and it's going to be a thick, luxurious frosting to top my loaf cake with. So I'm going to then pipe it on, add some decorations of a little bit of popcorn, a little bit of some like toffee sprinkles, you know, bits and bobs, whatever you want to decorate with. But either way, make your buttercream frosting, decorate your cake, and have fun. So I'm going to start by adding my butter to the bowl on its own, and then I'm going to mix this on its own until it's really smooth. then I'm going to start adding my icing sugar. And then I'm going to add my toffee sauce. And that is how you make the toffee frosting. Just going to drizzle with an extra bit of toffee sauce. I'm going to add on some little toffee fudge chunks. And then finally, I'm just going to add on some toffee popcorn. And that is how you make my toffee apple loaf cake. It's such an autumnal showstopper that is so delicious, so easy and full of flavour. And trust me, you're gonna love it if you give it a go. So make sure to check out the full recipe in the description box below, and I'll put a link to the blog post as well. I'll link anything useful, such as the loaf tin, the piping tip, the piping bags, that sort of thing. And obviously if you have any questions, leave them below as well, and I'll get back to you and give you a helping hand. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please come back next time for something utterly scrumptious and probably still spooky themed. We're still doing the autumnal bakes. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and thank you very much for watching.